My grandmother always told me, watch for the Amarbail, Claire. It's pretty at first, but it'll choke the life out of whatever it touches. I thought she was talking about gardening. I didn't realize she was giving me advice about people. When I left Washington, D.C., I told my friends I needed a break, some quiet time to figure things out. The truth, I was worn down. The city's pace had eaten me alive, and so had a relationship that started with fireworks but ended like an abandoned house, silent, dark, and full of things I didn't want to remember. So I drove to Ashford, Virginia, where my grandmother's house stood at the end of Magnolia Street. It had the wraparound porch, the creaky screen door, the kind of yard that looked like it had secrets. And at the very back, the roses, what was left of them. They were sick. Something orange and stringy wound around the stems like faded yarn. "That's Amarbail," a voice said. I turned to see a man leaning on the fence. Maybe mid-30s, baseball cap pulled low, skin browned from work under the sun. "Daughter vine," he said. "It can't grow on its own. No roots, no leaves, just wraps around something alive and feeds on it." We talked for a while. His name was David Collins, born and raised here, worked at the hardware store and fixed things for neighbors. I didn't know it then, but that was the first time I'd meet my own Amarbail. David came back 2 days later with gloves and pruning shears. Together we worked on the roses, following each vine down to where it hooked into the stem, pulling it free. "You can't just cut it at the top," he told me. "You have to take it from the root, or it'll come back meaner." We started seeing each other more often. Coffee on my porch, farmers market runs, walks along the old mill road. It wasn't love at first sight, it was quieter than that. More like a vine slowly wrapping itself around a post. By winter, we were spending almost every evening together. David cooked hearty meals, fixed the gate, checked my tires before road trips. And then came the little comments. "You don't need to drive to Richmond, your old friends are busy now. Why bother with makeup? You're not in the city anymore. Are you sure you want to work online with strangers?" They didn't sound like demands, just care, concern. So I let things go. Slowly my trips, my calls, my work all started fading. By spring, the roses were worse than before. David offered to take care of them, but the Amarbail only grew thicker, more tangled. And somehow the same was true of my life. One rainy night, he saw a late-night thank you text from a male client and accused me of flirting. We argued for hours. I ended up in tears, promising I'd turn down work like that. The vine pulled tighter. One June afternoon, I stood in the yard staring at the roses. The Amarbail was everywhere, thin, papery strands wrapped so tight that pulling them would rip the rose stems apart. I realized the plant wasn't the only thing being drained. The next morning, I put on my grandmother's gloves and started working from the fence line. I followed every strand back to its root, yanking it out, even if it meant scraping my hands bloody. When David came over that night, I told him I was leaving. "For what? For who?" he asked. "For me," I said. It took a year for the roses to bloom again. I cut away dead wood, watered them daily, and shielded them from frost. In the process, I rebuilt myself too, called my friends, took new clients, laughed louder than I had in years. By the next spring, the roses were taller, stronger, more vibrant than before. When my niece came to visit, she asked about the strange orange vine in the pictures I'd taken. "Amarbail," I told her. "It can't live without taking from something else. But you don't have to let it grow on you. If you do, it'll take more than you can give. And when you pull it away, you'll see how much you can grow without it."